Elon Musk's latest target is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Dozens of employees have already been fired in what's being described as a staff purge. The gutting of the Bureau is raising conflict of interest concerns. That's because Musk hopes to turn his X app into a platform for processing payments, something that would very much come under the CFPB's oversight. I want to bring in Richard Cordray, who served as the first director of the CFPB from 2012 to 2017. It's great to have you on the program. I think a lot of Americans think maybe I understand because it says consumer protection in the name what this organization does. But help us to understand by giving us some examples of why the American public might want to care about this.
Sure. All of us know that we face difficult decisions over complex financial products that we don't necessarily fully understand. This has to do with mortgages, which are a long-term commitment of many thousands of dollars, credit cards that we deal with on a daily basis, and student loans, for example, that help finance education. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau makes sure that the law is being enforced, so it's a law enforcement agency, and that people aren't being cheated by people who would violate the law to get an advantage. That's a basic fundamental notion of fairness in our society. And the Consumer Bureau was created to make sure that that happens.
I want to get more into the impact on consumers, but let me ask you about what's going on in the organization right now, because CFPB staff were informed, according to NPR, when termination letters were sent via email, many with no personalization, according to two of the terminated employees, who say that they essentially got a botched form letter. It read, quote, memorandum for insert employee first name, employee last name, job title, and division. I know you haven't been with the Bureau for 8 years, but what are you hearing from people there about the real world impact of this kind of thing?
Well, look, what they've done, they're taking a look at the Bureau, and they will find, and they are finding, I'm sure, that there is a lot of law that governs what the Bureau does. Congress passed this law. It is not optional. It is mandatory. There are a lot of things that the Bureau shall do. It shall supervise financial institutions, make sure they're complying with the law. It shall handle what is now millions of individual consumer complaints to make sure that people are cheated by financial companies, they can get their money back. Those are things that are just required under the law. And unless you're going to simply disobey the law, they have to be done. And I think that there's some recognition of that. They have now let go some employees, about 70, I guess, who were in a probationary status and did not have legal protections. That suggests that they're aware that the rest of the 1,700 employees do have legal protections and can't be let go. And I think what's happening is they've now nominated a director, and they understand that this agency needs to be able to work. It has certain things it does that are very important in financial markets, not just for consumers, but for the companies that operate there, such as community banks and credit unions and mortgage lenders. And if they can't operate on a level playing field, that's going to hurt a lot of companies, a lot of consumers, and ultimately hurt the people of America.
Let's talk about Elon Musk. The New York Times writes this: at X, one of the most promising ways Mr. Musk can increase profits is through a payment business, which could charge fees for transactions. Building out that business would be easier without having to contend with a regulator like the Consumer Bureau, which has a recent track record of bringing cases against payment companies. Do you believe there's a potential conflict here, and maybe a big one?
I think there's a clear conflict of interest. Look, if you're trying to go into a new area of payment systems and you're trying to gut the regulator that oversees that system, that's just a plain conflict of interest. I mean, that involves ethics laws in the federal government that are very serious indeed. And so, you know, what we're going to see, I think, over time is a recognition that the Consumer Bureau does some things that are very important in markets. That affects a lot of companies that serve a lot of people. It also protects consumers. And good businesses care about the long-term health of their customers. And that's how most of them operate. But some do not. Some would try to get an advantage by gutting the people that oversee them. It's apparent that Elon Musk would like to see that happen now that he's moving into payment systems. But it's not appropriate, and it's not the way things, I believe, will show out here.
Richard Cordray, I hope you'll come back. We'll continue to watch this. Thank you so much for your time.